Welcome back, everybody, to yet another From Screen to Shelf review. I am Mr. Wallet Bully, aka Chase. I am one of the three beautiful souls that make up this wonderful channel. I am over the moon to talk to you guys today about something I've been so curious about. I just had to buy it. So I'm here to break that down, and that is going to be the Lost Picture Show, the 10-year anniversary box set presented by Vinegar Syndrome. 10 lost fills and a surprise extra in there that technically brings it to 11. And yeah, so first what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, take a look at the box set. I'm going to do an unboxing for that. We're going to come back here and break down each film. I'm not necessarily going to go deep into the plot. Some of these were absolutely amazing to go into without really any type of how do you say it, like any plot details or anything. Made some of these more rewarding than others. So we're gonna come right back and then break that down after I dissect and show you the box set. See you soon. Alright guys, and we have Vinegar Syndromes. I don't know if I would say highly anticipated or more highly curious release of the Lost Picture Show. I think highly curious would definitely fit this. Like I was saying earlier during the introduction and stuff like that, it's a compilation of 10 lost films, and they categorize lost films a lot differently than just in general like movies that you haven't seen or anything like that. There's actually a special feature I'll show you on the inside of the package that goes into detail about how they categorize something as lost. Just because it took them forever or it hasn't been on VHS or Blu-ray or DVD, they don't consider that lost. They consider it lost with like a certain amount of degree and pedigree to it. I don't want to go into too much detail about that because it's an hour and I want to say like 17-minute long like extra in here that goes into detail about how they categorize that, and I definitely find it worth a watch. But without further ado, we've got this, which I'm gonna be honest, I wish this was bigger because it just kind of blends on a shelf. But there's that, where it splits apart. The top kind of looks like a little book, and we're gonna crack this bad boy wide open. Boom. And I really only have two complaints about this set. I always like to present things or talk about them to a degree with what it does, not what it doesn't do, in regards to a movie, a collector's edition, anything along those lines. And what you just saw right here, that's kind of my biggest complaint. Like, you'll see when I go to do that, I just kind of worry that like these little booklets I'm about to pop out might end up not necessarily closing properly, right? It's not really the end of the world. It's just, I just kind of worry. See that right there? But without further ado, let's open this up wider. And I'm going to have to slide it over a little bit. We're going to start from left to right just because that's how I specifically watched this. This set right here includes Barbara, Las Vegas Strangler, Last American Hobo, Voodoo Heartbeat, and What's Love on this side right here. So let's pull these out, show you what it looks like. Just white on the inside right there. And then, yeah. It's a little behind the scenes information for the Black Widow. And so that's cool. And there's a little portrait. That's specifically from What's Love. That's Last American Hobo. And then, honestly, that's just a conglomeration of all of it. So let's rip that bad boy off and go to right here. Love that. That just looks so cool. Fits the aesthetic, fits the theme. First disc does include Barbara and a majority of the special features for the rest of the set. So I would recommend watching all of them if this is something that you're going to pick up. Watch all of them, then go back to the first disc. That's what I did because it definitely has a lot of special features for what's on disc 2. So that one includes Barbara. This one includes Las Vegas Strangler and Last American Hobo. This one includes Voodoo Heartbeat and What's Love. I really did like Voodoo Heartbeat, which I'll get into more detail later. And as you can tell right there, it's got some reversible cover art right there. Kind of makes it look a lot like this right here. So now we're going to go ahead and slide this on over. Get that out of the way and show you what's over here. There's that little booklet. I got to make sure I'm covering specific things. As my guy Will likes to say, I don't want to get fucking canceled or get the video removed, so got to be careful when we're doing Vinegar Syndrome stuff. Some cool little extras. Yeah, really nice little pamphlet. Set that over to the side. And then we got some things from Violator. We got some things from Deep Inside. I want to say that's actually Voodoo Heartbeat. And I want to still say, actually, that's Rare Blue Apes. Actually, probably my favorite movie released out of this entire package. So, without further ado, on this disc set, this one starts with, God, why is it escaping me? The very, very first one on this disc is Where the Black Widow, I want to say. And then it does have that documentary I was talking about on this disc right here. I do wish, my biggest complaint about this box set is I do wish that it would actually label which one's on which, you know, so that way I'm not just throwing things and random things just to kind of figure out what I want to watch, because there's definitely a couple of these I'm going to rewatch over time. So that one's got the hour 17, hour 20 minute long documentary. The second disc has Deep Inside and Violated and Rare Blue Apes. And then actually, I got it backwards. This one on here has Red Midnight on it. I got that backwards. This last one includes Beware the Black Widow and Deep Inside. Yeah, see, it's kind of confusing. I wish they just labeled them instead of me having to just kind of figure it out. That's probably my biggest complaint with this set. The other thing that I do kind of wish that this did a little bit differently, it's like I said, I typically don't grade things in the aspect of what it doesn't do, right? Like I said, my biggest complaint is kind of like, I guess I could just do that and then fold it. I just kind of wish I had a slip. And I kind of wish this was a little bit bigger, so that way on the shelf right here, it just popped a little bit more. That's really my only complaint about this box set, other than the discs and the way that they're labeled. I wish they were just labeled, not even a little bit better, a lot better. Just some labeling, not just the same disc art for set 2 for set 1. I just wish that was a little bit different. So now I do find it appropriate to go ahead, go over here, and take a look at the movies, because that's what everybody's curious about. What the hell are these movies? I watched some of these so that you don't have to. There's none that are really bad. There's actually some absolute gold in here, and I'm excited to talk about them. So let's go back over there and let's dive into this set. Welcome back from taking a look at that beauty. Yeah, it's a great box set. Really like how it looks, really like it. I'm just not a fan of the way that the spine is so minimal, just because kind of like, look at that, you know? Sometimes I want to look at it, kind of want things to pop, especially something as important as that. This is a pretty important box set. 10 films that were lost to the test of time that we're getting to experience for the very, very first time. So, I already gave you my thoughts on that. We're going to flow like water right past that and dive into the movies themselves. So, we're going to go in order of how I watched them, which was pretty much disc 1 all the way to their 6 disc total, all the way to the very end. So, I'm going to go in that kind of order and then go from there. So, you have to look at the back of this Amore. It definitely gives you so much details, and it's hard to keep up, especially some of these are directors that they go into detail about that on disc 4, the first disc with the hour 20 long documentary, about how some of these people use like pseudonyms, fake names, and stuff like that. So it was kind of hard to track down like the publishers, the rights. Some of these people actually did do some films that you may have heard about, depending on how deep into either Vinegar Syndrome or into just like I don't know. I don't really like the word mainstream, but I guess that's really the most appropriate thing to use here. If you only really dig into mainstream media, you've definitely never heard of any of these people, but you may have foraying into Vinegar Syndrome, Severance, or just having your own sense of taste that, yeah, just having your own sense of taste. So we're going to go into, it is Walter Burns' Barbara from 1970. This is a black and white film. And the way I kind of like to compare this film, and it was really all I could really think about whenever I was watching it, is this movie is very in lieu with Quiet Days and Clichy, which actually did get a 4K probably about a year and a few months ago, towards the tail end of 2022, maybe mid-year, which is essentially about like, how do I present this? So Barbara is about being so it's got a story, I promise. So it's essentially about how exploring your body, right, from a youthful age, and then, you know, opening up and trying to open up those desires to others is kind of the most loose way that I can put that. This is something that explores sexual, not necessarily identity, but desires to the fullest from left to right, 360, right? This is a very sexually free type of movie. This is a very open-minded movie. I don't necessarily, I had no problem with it, right? I thought it was a really fun movie. I enjoyed it from front to back. Was it my favorite out of the set? Definitely not. In kind of the realm of what this kind of, I guess you could say, sexploitation or exploitation type of movie, I would definitely like to watch Quiet Days and Clichy again versus something like this. There wasn't, again, anything wrong with it. It's just, it didn't keep me invested the entire runtime. There were times that for the opening movie, I kind of just, there was definitely another pick, which I'll get to here soon, that I probably would have chose to open that movie up with instead. It's got a very strong opening where it's got a radio commentary over a more graphic scene at the very beginning, where the lady in the scene is kind of giving a radio voiceover. There was a lot of really cool filmic and creative decisions made in this that really did keep me invested off and on. And there were others where it just got a little bit long-winded and kind of got me a little bit uninvested. But it's definitely a solid 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10. It's good for what it is. That's where that scale kind of falls whenever I grade something like that. It's good for what it is. It's not great. It's definitely not a box set seller like some of these other ones I'm going to talk about here soon. But it definitely is really good, and I'm really, really happy that this movie got found, right? I'm always happy that any type of cinema, any type of film in general just kind of gets opened up to the public, especially whenever you get to be one of hundreds, if not thousands, depending on how well this box set sells. Whenever I was logging these in on Letterboxd, some of these only had less than 100 reviews. The biggest one that had a lot of reviews was Rare Blue Apes with a few hundred. And it's kind of cool, you know? It's just kind of cool to be a part of that small crowd. I just can't lie. So I'm super happy that Barbara, it's a recommendation. It's good. Other people might like it more than others, depending on what you find desirable in the content itself. But again, it's a very, very open-souled type of movie that it's just cool that it got made during that time. I'm sure it could get made in today's world, but probably not as explicit as it was and as graphic as it was. It probably would get an X rating, but maybe that's why it got lost and never really properly restored. So we're gonna go ahead and flow past that on the second part of that disc. It's like I said in the box set review, skip past the extras because a majority of the extras are on the same disc as Barbara, which is disc 1 in this right here. So just skip past the extras, and I highly recommend checking them out after you check out the full box set, because just like the last movie is deep inside, it's got a bunch of extras on there. Now, something that you can check out in the extras is it does have, let me get the exact name, Outlaw Motorcycles. That's kind of what I alluded to. It's technically got 11 lost films. Outlaw Motorcycles is a short film by the same guy that did, his name, I don't want to butcher this, Titus Mode is how I want to say it, but I'm just going to say every single way so that way I cover all bases. Titus Mode. And then it's got a bunch of outtakes. It's got a bunch of, or a couple of alternate openings, different types of screen grabs, stuff like that. So it's really, really cool that that has that on there. So it's technically got 10 full-length films and 1 short film. So 11 if you want to just be filmic and considerate of everything that's in there. So that's cool. So now we're going to go to number 2. It is William Collins' The Las Vegas Strangler. So the name of that kind of got me invested, like I was going to get kind of an older school slasher, and you aren't wrong. It's definitely, I like to say there's another movie, Beware the Black Widow, in this set that's very along those lines, where you have a killer and stuff like that, but it's not by our modern standards, that Halloween, Black Christmas and stuff like that set. It's very drama heavy, that kind of has some killing going on in it. It's not like a later movie in here, Violated, that is just absolutely balls to the wall with the horror, with the exploitation, everything like that. This one is a very slow burn that I actually rather liked. It kind of falls in that same camp as Barbara. So essentially, the Las Vegas Strangler is just, she's killing people, right? I mean, the name gives it all. It does, how do you say this? My brain froze, so I'm back. It chronicles the life of the Las Vegas Strangler. So it gives you a little bit of chronicalization and stuff, if that's the term that you can use. And you follow that individual. And again, like, I'm trying to be as loose with the plot on these as possible. I tend to do that with a lot of my reviews, just because I don't want to word vomit and give you guys too much about the plot. I know these are a little bit different because these are movies that there was no information on outside. I think Rare Blue Apes had some on it, because that was a director that had a filmography and a set out there. But for the most part, I do find these the most rewarding going in blind, right? So with the Las Vegas Strangler, I gave it the same rating, a 3 out of 5, a 6 out of 10. It's good for what it is. It's strong. It has some shortcomings. It has some highs and it has some lows. Might be boring to others. This could be a perfect movie to others, depending on exactly what you're into. Again, just happy that this got made. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and flow to the third movie in this set, which actually is one that it was very good. I liked it a lot. I actually really liked, so get the name of this, The Sex Serum of Dr. Blake, which that one's got a little bit of history that they go into. Now, again, all of these have intros, like 1.5 to 2 minute long intros that you can choose to play, where they give you a little bit of preface and stuff like that before you press play and go into it. So that was the original title of it, that had a little bit more explicit scenes and stuff. However, they even claim that it really didn't take anything away. The cut that they technically have is called Voodoo Heartbeat, which just took away a little bit more of the graphicness of the movie. And I actually had a really good time with this. It's like they say in the intros, like, you can kind of say these are vampires, but it's essentially about like this serum that goes around that makes people nymphomaniacs, has them like the highest level of lust possible for a human, but it also makes them crazed killers. But it follows one specific person to a degree, and you kind of watch his his craze go on. This had some really cool moments. I said this in my Letterboxd review. There's really no way that you could convince me that this was not Herschel Gordon Lewis making this movie. There's definitely some parts that take away that, but man, this thing feels like a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. The low budget effects, still going the mile, still keeping you invested, keeping you immersed into the world. The biggest draw and takeaway is there's a boat chase scene in there, and Herschel Gordon Lewis definitely never had the budget for that. So that's kind of the thing that takes me away from that, but at the very least, it was an homage to a degree, because Herschel Gordon Lewis's influence, at the very least, is felt in this movie through and through. Very strong 6 out of 10. Again, I had a good time with this one in particular, right? That one was really good. Now we're going to get to the one that, the person that did that is Charles Nazette. That is the actual director that did that one. Now, whenever it comes to this next film, this is the weakest movie in the sets, probably, to me. I might say that about something else, because there's definitely some misses in this. The beginning of this movie, the title of it is What's Love? So it has a bunch of adult actors and actresses in it. Whenever you go and look into it, it says that it is not a softcore adult film. It says that it's not, or it's not even an adult film to begin with, even though all of the artists, actors, directors, everybody pretty much involved had some form of adult acting in it, right? So this one has a little bit of a history. So it is by Bill Cable, but it was finished by Carlos Tobalina almost a decade later. So Bill Cable is an adult actor that started making this movie, and then only got about halfway through, and then Carlos Tobalina actually finished the movie later on and pretty much finished the last half to the last third act of it. And the reason I don't like this movie that much is it had such a cool premise at the beginning. Such a cool premise. Essentially, it's kind of like Lucifer's, like, messing with people's lust levels and stuff like that. And there's something really freaking weird that happens in this. And it kind of got me invested. It was super cool. Like, there's a part where he's doing his thing with another girl and stuff like that, and then the girl turns around and ends up being Lucifer, changes into a guy. It was super weird, but I'm like, wow, this is different. Okay, that got me invested. And then it just turns into a full-on softcore adult film. It has a story, but it just didn't keep me invested that last half. It's a 2 out of 5, 3.5 out of 10 at best, really, maybe a 4 out of 10 if you convert that. I really didn't have that much of a good time with this. I enjoyed the first 20-30 minutes. It's just it felt like it built a different plot versus what it ended up ending with. So this is probably one of the biggest passes in this set to me. It wasn't that fun for me personally. So now we're gonna go ahead and get into the last one on disc number 3, because disc 2 and 3 had the double features on there with no extras. This one is The Last of the American Hobos by Titus Mode, who also did the Outlaw Motorcycles little short film that's included on the first disc as an extra. This movie was really good. A strong 6 out of 10. It's essentially, it's not an actual documentary as much as it's shot to be like a documentary, but it could definitely be passed as a documentary. And it's just about hobos living their life. They talk about their struggles. They talk about how they've pretty much seen all of America, what they're living on. And it was just really endearing. It had a lot of cool traits and qualities to it. It had a lot of the soundtrack to it. It's very folky. Like, just imagine being around a campfire, somebody whips out a harmonica, maybe a banjo, and just starts going to town, fiddling with it and everything like that, and then just busts out a good rhyme. That's kind of the soundtrack that you get here, and it's super fucking charming. It really is. This one is definitely one of the stronger ones to me. A strong 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it for what it was. Just the griminess, kind of it being lost, and like the real being in, like the film elements being in a very bad shape. It's kind of like what I've been on record saying about Texas Chainsaw with before, where like the low quality, the low this, the low that, just adds so much effect to the movie itself. And I think that helps this. If this was restored into 4K, super cleaned up, I don't think it'd have the same charm, honestly. I think it'd still be a good movie, but I just don't think it would have the same charm that it had going for it on this specific disc. So that's going to be set number 1 on this guy. Like I said, strong 7 out of 10 for The Last of the American Hobos. That was good. That was a really good time. Now, we're going to get into what I do actually think is the stronger portion of this. Some of the best ones on this entire set are on here, specifically disc 2 on this one. This one opens up with Red Midnight, and that one is... Actually, I don't even think it had the director's name on there. Correct me if I'm pretty sure there is the director on there. But Red Midnight is essentially, think about America has never really had to face the threat of being nuked. Of course, we have like the missile crisis era and stuff like that, which is kind of where this comes from. But just imagine if it happened. The first, I would say, act and a half of this movie is very slow. It's kind of a typical slow burn, and then just shit hits the fan really quick. And the effects, the way that it was shot, the story and everything like that, I found it very endearing, a very strong 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for the super slow and kind of nonsensical beginning half of the movie, I think it would definitely be one of the stronger discs on here, but it was a great way to start off set 2, or disc 2 of the set. It is very strong, very good. Not quite like Mad Max if you're thinking post-apocalyptic whenever I kind of describe this movie. But yeah, so it's America gets nuked and people have to live with it. So it's very cool, very low budget. I think it adds so much to it. And then this disc that Red Midnight is on actually includes that hour 20 long documentary that I've mentioned so many times. Check that out, please. If you're buying this set, if you're a Vinegar Syndrome fan, there's no way that you can't not buy it. There's just no way. Or watch that and be so invested in it. You know, we're Vinegar Syndrome fans for a reason, because they give us things that I probably never would have checked out, probably couldn't find on streaming, couldn't do this, couldn't do that, and they preserve and have a mission to keep things alive that are no longer around. So I have so much respect for them. Check out that little, you could break away. It doesn't really spoil anything in that aspect. You can break away, go from Red Midnight to that. That's what I did. I saw it was on there as an extra. I was like, boom, immediately. As soon as I saw it was about how they restore the films, how they acquire these lost pictures, you'd be very surprised on how some of this happens. They just end up with them. They just end up with them, and it's super cool. It's super cool. Now, the strongest disc in this set. The strongest entire disc in this set. I probably would recommend, if you have any triggers for what I'm about to talk about, to skip forward about 90 seconds or until you hear me talking about Rare Blue Apes. Because this is very, very sensitive with what I'm about to get into for the lore of this movie, the plot of this movie. So 3, 2, 1, we're going in on Violated. And Violated is by Albert Zugsmith. So Albert Zugsmith, this movie predates I Spit on Your Grave, which you can start understanding where I'm getting at here in a moment. This movie, it's actually one of the few I can watch some pretty hard to watch movies, you know, like gore and stuff like that. I'm able to just soak myself into what they're presenting and separate reality and stuff like that. But whenever it comes to harm and assault, if you can see what I'm kind of saying and tie that together with I Spit on Your Grave, it can be hard to watch for me personally. Sometimes I just flat out don't watch those movies. I kind of blind watched I Spit on Your Grave years ago, and yeah, it's not my favorite movie just because of the contents in there. Violated, I think, does it a lot better than what I Spit on Your Grave does. So it's about a serial assaulter going around doing his thing, and he carves Nazi symbols into people. If I'm allowed to say that, I really hope I don't have to redo this whole video just for saying that. So he carves those symbols into each of his victims, and it's very balls to the wall and very fast. It doesn't pull punches. It gives it to you immediately. It goes in and it goes in and it goes in, and it has very, very few slow moments. There's some moments where the acting really doesn't prevail as much as I probably would like it to. Despite the content that's in this movie, I think this is a movie that could very much so really, really do a remake. I really do. The way that they did it, the way that it's shot, the story, how exploitative it is, how raunchy it is, I think it's as undigestible. I probably wouldn't watch it, but there's a crowd out there that can stomach anything. Much respect to those people. This was a hard watch, but that doesn't take away for how good the movie was and how well made it was, especially for being a lost film. That just it stands the test of time. It's really good. The mask, everything about there's no killing in this movie. There's just a lot of what I had already said going on, and it's very good from front to back. The last third act and the way that things get, like the identity of the person and stuff like that, it's almost bone-chilling the way that it happens. It's very, very good. This is a strong 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for, despite the content, the way that it was made, the way that it was presented. I probably wouldn't be rewatching this movie anytime soon, but it's definitely good for a first-time watch. And I'm glad it got found for the people out there that can rewatch it and do whatever they want with it. So we're actually about to get into Rare Blue Apes, or the Rare Blue Apes of Cannibal Isle, and then it's got another name that I probably don't know. I think it has got 3 or 4 different names. But this it's just kind of goofy. This is the same guy that did Alice in Acidland. His name is, it always escapes me, Don Greer. And he also did 101 Acts of Love. This movie is from 1974. So it's got, it's at least in the reel for the intro, it was dated as like a kid's movie. That confuses me though. I get it, it's a little bit goofy, and I can see it, think kind of Dark Crystal, where that kind of is like a preteen kids movie that has a little bit more of horror elements or gothic elements and stuff like that in it. Man, some of the stuff in this movie, there's no way that it was a kid's movie. There's just no way, especially Cannibal Isle. I guess different times, right? That name definitely wouldn't pass for a kid's movie at that point today, right? But this is definitely the strongest movie in this set. I really, really, really liked it. I barely understood what was going on. It is a little bit of a musical, and I have been on record before saying I'm not a huge fan of musicals. I love great scores, but musicals, when people just bust out into song, it's not necessarily my go-to genre, right? So when it comes to Rare Blue Apes, it's a bit of a musical, a bit of a kid venture, this and that. And what is it? So, this kid has a duck named Mr. Quack Quack and ends up on like Cannibal Isle, does this, does that. And this is a movie that like I really want to give as little details about, because I need to rewatch it because it made very little sense for what was going on. Kind of think of like a Jim Henson movie meets, like, if you guys remember the old TV show The Dinosaurs, where it's like, I'm not the mama or I'm not the baby, whatever they say in there. I remember watching that growing up. This kind of reminds me of that. A little bit of charm to like the puppeteering, the suits, the mascots and stuff like that. The musical elements of it were very catchy. They're very catchy. This is a movie that I will definitely be rewatching a couple more times. It had high replayability, especially for the plot really not making a whole lot of sense. I think there's just times I got kind of earwormy with the songs and stuff like that, and I just lost track of the plot, really. It's really good, shot very well. This one wasn't in the best shape, so like there's some color grading, like it fades between like these warm and cool colors like this. But as we know, Vinegar Syndrome does everything in their power to make things as presentable as possible. So, very, very good movie. A strong 8.5 out of 10. Really good when I say that. I just love weird shit, man. I love weird shit. So, that's going to be, this is the strongest movie in this entire set, right? So then we're going to get into the last two. Whenever it comes to Beware the Black Widow, that's on disc 3. Beware the Black Widow is done by Terry Crane. It's Giallo-esque. It really is. It's a Giallo-esque mystery where it's kind of reminds me of a little bit of Stanley Kubrick's early like whodunit detective noir style movies like Killer's Kiss, The Killing, and stuff like that. Where it's very slow paced, and then the last 5 minutes is a little bit balls to the wall. It's not my favorite, honestly. Like, I just really didn't care much for this movie, just personally. I'll probably end up rewatching it, seeing if I like it a little bit more. It was shot very well. Some of the cinematography in this is really, 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 really good. But I'm gonna have to give this probably a 5.5 out of 10. I really didn't care too much for this specific movie. It just wasn't up my alley. Found it a little bit boring. It's a little bit more drama heavy than anything else. And I love Giallo, or Gialli, however you say it. Correct me. I'm Jolly, I think is how I've been told it's said. But anyways, it's kind of in that realm of things. Other people are going to love this movie. It just wasn't really for me. So we're going to get into the very, very last one, and that's going to be Deep Inside. It's a character study / drama, and it is done by Joe Sarnos. It has a good story. It has a really good story. It's essentially, you just, golly, I'm talking about it being a good story, yet it really didn't make, it made sense. So, Deep Inside is a little bit of a softcore adult film. It's got some scenes in it. It's very body exploratory, not as much so as Barbara, from what I had talked about at the very beginning of this set, but it's very exploratory in that aspect. This is one So it essentially follows a character named Redmond, right? Who is kind of this little leader of like this group of people. And she essentially exploits, she's very narcissistic. Very, very like nobody's better than her, this, that, and the third, and exploits a lot of the individuals in this group's weaknesses. So like one of them's a nymphomaniac, so like she pries into that. She lures her into like those self-desires and stuff, which is where more of those softcore elements really come in. And there's other people with like insecurities. Like it's more of a power dynamic type of movie, right? That's about as much as I really want to say about it, because I think it's definitely a more rewarding film whenever you're going in blind. It wasn't necessarily my favorite. It had a good story, some good acting, some really, really efficient plot points. This is probably a movie I'm gonna have to give a second watch and digest that plot a little bit more and see if it's for me. Otherwise, I'm gonna say it's more middle of the ground right now. I'm gonna give it about just under good. It's decent. It's about a 5 out of 10 in my books. Now, overall, with giving that score and everything like that on the individual movies basis, as a package, I'm gonna have to give this about an 8 out of 10. Maybe an 8.5 out of 10 out of sheer audacity for Vinegar Syndrome. And by that, I mean just putting it out there. Especially for its price point, you get
10 movies plus one short film and a bunch of extras in one package, and I believe it retails not on sale for $89.99. That's under $10 a movie, which for lost movies, fantastic for just, you know, if you're curious, anything like that. And this is bound with how many units that they're sitting on, which I wish they were sitting on less right now. You're bound to probably be able to get it for around the $50 to $60 mark, especially on an upcoming halfway or even just a full-on Black Friday sale from Vinegar Syndrome. I found this set extremely rewarding, and I had a good time from front to back, no matter how hit, no matter how missed the movie was. There's not any bad ones other than What's Love. I really just didn't care much for that movie because it just kind of went boom like that. Barbara, it's not my favorite movie in there, but I can definitely respect it for the exploitation that it presents. Rare Blue Apes is the strongest movie in this set. Red Midnight is amazing. Or it's really good. I wouldn't say amazing, and it's just so that people are like, oh my god, it's a perfect movie. It has its flaws. Like I said, the first act and a half definitely wasn't keeping me invested, but the last third and a half, or however you want to phrase that, or last half of the movie was really, really solid. Violated, very good. I am not rewatching that movie again anytime soon because, like I said, the subject matter really bothers me. It's one of those things that's very hard for me to stomach. So a very solid set. Support Vinegar Syndrome, support efforts like this. I really want more of these. Anytime they do these types of things, I know like they're just so passionate. They go into detail about that in the little mini documentary on there. They're just so passionate about what they're doing and how they're presenting things, and they're just over the moon. The way they talk about some of these movies will make you think that they just found gold, and some of them are for sure. So like I said, just because I'm giving certain scores to some of these doesn't mean you're gonna like them as much as me, of course. This is my personal opinion. I've got hot takes and sometimes bad tastes, right? So yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap up my Lost Picture show review. Let me know in the comments below, if you have this set, which one was your favorite? Did you like Rare Blue Apes as much as me? Did you like Violated? Did you like Beware the Black Widow? Did you like Barbara a lot more than me? Was that one your favorite? Which one's your favorite? Let's start some dialogue in the comments. I'm just super curious which one hit home the closest for people, because I'd have to feel like a lot of people liked Rare Blue Apes. That's a good movie. Super weird and super bizarre. Love weird and bizarre. If I hear that truncated into the description of a movie, I'm in. I'm not reading anything else. Weird and bizarre, I'm in, right? So without further ado, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. My name is Chase, again, with From Screen to Shelf. Please like, comment, subscribe. Again, let me know which one was your favorite, which one you didn't like. Otherwise, next time we've got some super exciting content headed your way. Stay tuned for more. As always, thank you from our heart to yours.